When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, let's dive right into it on a Tuesday. Nice to see you here. A little bit late starting the week, but we're ready to roll now. We got three big things this hour. Number one, a bipartisan bill introduced in Congress yesterday that would require social media influencers to divulge payments from foreign sources. For the record, I don't get paid by foreign sources, just so you know. Number two, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent pulling all the stops and crippling Iran's financial ties, and the U.S. will target any companies or countries that try to go around the financial blockade. And number three, we're doing something different, folks, because we've got to stop pretending. For more than 50 years, the climate doomsdayers have been wrong. Not mostly wrong, not partially wrong, completely, spectacularly, zero for everything wrong. According to the people who've been keeping track, the scoreboard now stands at 0 for 54. 54 predictions of catastrophe, famine, ice ages, flooded cities, vanished islands, and the end of snow itself. Not one of them landed, not one. And yet these same people demand we surrender our economy, our energy, our cars, our stakes, and our freedoms for prediction number 55. Think about that for a second. If your financial advisor had steered you into 54 consecutive disasters, you wouldn't give him a 55th chance. You'd hire him on the spot, you'd fire him on the spot, and maybe call the cops, right? But when the climate industrial complex misses for half a century, the media and the political class treat the next scare like gospel. It's not science, it's a protection racket. Look at the greatest hits. In the late 60s, they promised mass famine by 1975. Didn't happen. In 1970, they warned America would face water rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1980. Never arrived. The 70s and early 80s were wall-to-wall ice age panic. New ice age by 2000, by 2020, by 2030. Satellites supposedly showed it coming fast. Then the script flipped overnight and it became runaway warming. In 1988, they said the Maldives would be underwater by 2018. Guess what? They're still here and growing. New York's West Side Highway was supposed to be a canal by 2019. You can drive it today. In 2000, they told us children would grow up not knowing what snow looked like. Ask anyone in Buffalo about that one. Arctic ice-free summers were predicted for 2013, and then 2015, and then 2018. I'm still waiting. Peak oil was always 5 or 10 years away until it wasn't. Super hurricanes, 50 million climate refugees by 2020. Manhattan underwater by 2015. None of it. 54 swings, 54 misses, and yet the volume only gets louder. Why? Because the point was never accurate forecasting. The point was power and control. That's the real story. The people pushing the most extreme timelines don't even live like they believe them. Take one of the loudest voices of the last decade, AOC. This is what she had to say on the subject just 7 years ago. Listen.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it?
Yeah. That's the kind of language that justifies any amount of control. So what's she doing now? Planning for a life measured in decades, not years. She's freezing her eggs, if you didn't hear. That's not the behavior of someone who believes the planet becomes uninhabitable in 5 years. That's the behavior of someone who understands the calendar will keep turning and the sun will keep rising, and she wants options when it does. The same pattern shows up everywhere. The people who lecture you about rising seas buy oceanfront property. The people who demand you give up your pickup truck still fly private. They don't believe the apocalypse. They believe the politics of the apocalypse. And the politics are the real product. Climate change became the perfect Trojan horse for an agenda that could never win on its own merits. Once the Soviet Union collapsed, socialism needed a new costume. Environmentalism provided it. Paint the free market as the destroyer of the planet, and suddenly every expansion of government looks like self-defense. Every new regulation, every industrial policy, every wealth transfer can be sold as planetary survival. The doomsday attitude is the lubricant. Listen to how the newest socialist stars talk about it. They don't separate the climate issue from the rest of the left's wish list. They stack it with everything else and call the whole package an existential emergency. Here's Socialist Democrat nominee Malat Kiros.
2032 is when, we will either put up or shut up and be voted out again. And then what? Like, you get a younger and more charismatic and smarter version of Trump that gets into office, who's probably going to be way more effective, which is a crazy thing to say given what we're facing right now, but like really effective at destroying our institutions and our economy and our planet, right? Like it is that serious. And then when you lump in AI and climate change, it really is like I struggle with talking about it in a way that sounds like it's doomerism, but like it's actually that serious. Like it is, we are really in the end times right now, and we've got to like lock in and actually demonstrate how we're gonna, fight back against this fascism.
It is doomerism. Good word. When a rising Democratic socialist star frames climate change, artificial intelligence, and opposition to their own movement as the same end times crisis, the mask slips. The science is secondary. The crisis is the excuse. The goal is the same centralized control Rush Limbaugh diagnosed more than 30 years ago. In 1992, he said the environmental movement was going to be the new home of socialism. He was right then, and the evidence has been piled higher ever since. The constant cry of catastrophe is what lets the left keep demanding more government, more planning, more power over ordinary people's choices like you. Without the doomsday soundtrack, the sales pitch collapses. Listen to Rush say it like only he could during an on-air debate with Al Gore. Here it is.
Absolutely. I don't think that there's anything conclusive about what Senator Gore said, with all due respect. I think, for example, there is no ozone hole over the United States. If we want to get into a detailed discussion of ozone depletion, we can. But I think, Ted, that there is not a crisis. See, this is the problem I have. I don't think the Earth is fragile. I don't think the ecology is fragilely balanced. And I think that the doomsday industry that is typified by members of the Hollywood acting community who say we've only got 10 years left to save our planet, we've got to act now. There's no way, if what these people say is true, that we can solve these problems in 10 years anyway. It's budget time in Washington. NASA's being cut. And I think that this fright and doom scenario is designed to frighten people. Everything in this country today seems to be a crisis. We can't do anything without it being having to face it as a crisis. We don't have any time to think about it. There are as many scientists, maybe even more, on the opposite side of all of these doomsday predictions.
He's exactly right. The doomsday predictions are a battering ram. We'll pick it up right there in just a moment. Nice to see you on a Tuesday. This is Daybreak. Like I said before the break, the doomsday predictions are the battering ram. Once people accept that the end is near unless government takes the wheel, every other argument about freedom, markets, or personal responsibility gets shouted down as denial. That's the game. And the hypocrisy is so thick you can cut it with a knife. Last year, at the United Nations, our President Trump called it out in front of the entire world. He pointed at the same elites who jet around lecturing everyone else about carbon footprints while living large themselves. Here he is.
Any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice, you want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf.
Yeah. He was describing the pattern perfectly. The people who tell you to freeze in the dark still want their own comfort. The people who insist your kids must inherit a poorer, colder, more restricted life still plan for their own futures. The carbon footprint lecture is for thee, not for me. Even some of the green energy true believers are starting to admit the practical limits. One of the most prominent renewable energy entrepreneurs in Britain recently acknowledged that fossil fuels will remain part of the energy system for decades. And that pure ideology cannot wish that reality away. Here it is.
If we price control wholesale energy across the board like we have retail, we have to do this to reform our energy system. If we do that, we pave the way to make sense of Rosebank and Jackdaw new drilling, sites that are already licensed, because we can save money. And then this secondary argument that's being made for new drilling, that if we're going to use fossil fuels, we might as well make them here as to bring them from abroad. That makes more sense and comes to the fore. We will use fossil fuels for a number of years to come, and it makes sense to make them here if we can also save money here and create some jobs. I'm up for it.
Well, you have clearly changed your position in the past few. This is interesting. We're getting news here from you, Dale Vince, today, because you were definitely against the expansion of these two fields.
Absolutely.
A few weeks ago, or a few days ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay.
No, well, you haven't spoken to me in the last few days.
So has the Prime Minister changed your mind?
No. No, I'm trying to persuade the Prime Minister to do this one big thing, which is to reform the energy market by putting price controls into our wholesale energy sector.
Yeah, when the people who built their fortunes on the green energy scam start talking about the necessity of the conventional energy sector, the pure doomsday narrative takes another hit. Reality has a way of intruding. So where does that leave us? With a movement that's 0 for 54 on its predictions, led by people who do not live as if their predictions are true, and whose solutions always require more power in the hands of the same political class that has failed for half a century. They want you to trade your freedom for prediction number 55. They want you to accept higher prices, lower reliability, slower growth, and tighter control because trust us. Trust the science. This time the models are different. They want us to believe that this time the experts finally got it right. Well, history says otherwise. The American way of life says otherwise. We do not organize our economy around the latest scare. We organize it around human ingenuity, abundant energy, and the freedom to build. Build, that's what Americans do. We innovate our way out of problems instead of surrendering to them. We drill, we refine, we invent, we adapt. That is how a free people handle risk. It's how we raised living standards while the air and water got cleaner. It's how we're going to keep doing it. The doomsdayers have had their turn 54 predictions later. And guess what? The world is still here. And AOC is freezing her eggs. The world is still here, still growing, still full of people who refuse to live on their knees. Don't hand them prediction number 55. Don't hand them your freedom. Tell them the streak is over. Tell them America is not for sale. Neither is the future. We cannot sit here and allow these people to continue to lie. And try to steal your freedom from you, your kids, your grandkids, and the future of this country. No more. No more. And that's the monologue. AI can clone your voice, forge your signature, even create fake documents that fool experts. And criminals are using these tools right now to steal from you. How? It's called title fraud. Your property records are public by law. Your name, your address, even your signature. Sitting in a database anyone can access today. A cyber scammer pulls your records, uses AI to forge a transfer document, files it with your county, and on paper, they're the new legal owner of your property. Then they can borrow against your equity or even sell your property long before you realize anything is wrong. That's why I use Home Title Lock. They monitor your property's title 24/7, alert you of any changes, and if you're a victim, their team of restoration experts will spend up to $1 million restoring your title. So, when's the last time you checked your title records? You can do it today. Use my promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to get a free title history report plus a free trial of $1 million triple lock protection so you can make sure you're not a victim already. That's HometitleLock.com. Promo code is Gruber. When they first asked me, where's your title? I said, I have no idea. No idea at all. But I checked into it. And I'm a customer. You should be too. HometitleLock.com. Promo code is Gruber. Nice to see you on a Tuesday. Glad to be back here. Emails accepted daily at stevegruber.com. Send me your thoughts about any of the topics we talk about. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. I want to share something with you because you've got these Democrats thinking they're going to waltz into control of the House and Senate in November. I don't believe it. I watch the numbers. I look at the polls that I trust. I discard the ones that I think are garbage. I've done this for a long time, and I've been pretty good at it, to be honest. And Joe Gruters is the RNC chair. And I happen to agree mostly with this assessment. Listen.
That the Republican will win the Senate race in Ohio?
Absolutely. Husted's going to win. Rogers is going to win. Collins is going to win. Paxton's going to win. All these swing seats they're talking about, they're red states. Ohio's a great state. Husted's a great candidate. He's already proven that he's a winner, and we're going to continue to be able to win with them. We have like I said, we have the resources. I think he's doing a great job on the campaign trail, and don't be surprised when we win all these seats.
Yeah, don't be surprised. I actually think New Hampshire is still in the mix. That's me. I think New Hampshire is still in play. So you've got that going on. By the way, the Republicans now have $500 million in John Thune's war chest. So As little as I think of John Thune, and I don't think much of John Thune most days, but in that particular case, he brought a lot of money to the table, and that is good news. People have been asking me about this product. If you're a parent with a kid in sports, concussions always a concern. Football, hockey, soccer, lacrosse, doesn't matter. One bad hit can change everything. That's why I want to tell you about NeuroGuard Plus. I've got people sending me emails asking me about this. NeuroGuard Plus, a patented mouth guard developed by Dr. Michael Hutchinson, designed to prevent concussions before they happen, not just treat them afterward. In real-world testing, athletes using NeuroGuard Plus suffered concussions 0.26% of the time. It's 99% effective. It's an incredible number. Another benefit, the guard helps you improve your strength and speed by up to 16%. It was studied by Michigan State and Wayne State University. They've tested it, certified it. If your kid's going to play hard, protect what matters, their brain. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Use that promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. NeuroGuardPlus.com. And again, if you ever miss one of the people that we're partnered with that sponsor this program, send me an email. I'll make sure you're hooked up. NeuroGuardPlus.com, promo code Gruber. Back after this. Let's get right to it as we continue the conversation. My next guest, Grover Norquist, Americans for Tax Reform president here. A lot of things going on with the economy and affordability and taxes and a trade war, apparently, with Canada, though I think it'll get resolved. Grover, good morning. Nice to see you on a Tuesday.
Good to be with you.
And I say I believe the trade war. Donald Trump said that they're going to slap 50% tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, but not till the 1st of January 2027. Look, Canada exports 75% of its exports come here to the U.S. If anybody has leverage, it'd be the United States. I believe this is a strategy. I don't think that these tariffs will ever go into effect, but maybe I'm wrong, sir. What do you make of it?
Well, putting the effective date months into the future says this is part of a conversation, not a penalty we're hitting you with right now. There is something to keep in mind is that Canadian nationalism consists of, we're not Americans, okay? There isn't something that binds them all together. Some of them speak French, some of them speak English, except they don't like us, or they feel in our shadow. And it irritates them that we can't remember which one's Mexico and which one's Canada. So rolling marbles at Trump's feet or bashing the United States is a vote-winning, popular thing to do. It's not just Trump; it's the country. So you're negotiating with somebody with terrible sensitivities and an inferiority complex, and good luck to sit the president and trying to reason with somebody who benefits from having a fight. And we're the ones with an election right now. They're not.
Right.
So I just worry a little bit that they will view this, the Canadian leftists, as a way to meddle with the American elections to try and make Trump look unreasonable or bad or flawed or something. It's beyond one of those private conversations about tariffs and access and things like that. This is a public fight that has probably nothing to do with tariffs from the Canadian side.
Yeah, but you say it's politically beneficial to Mark Carney. A fight with America, beneficial politically to Carney. He's not in an election year. Trump is arguing about affordability, so we'll see how that plays out. I think that they'll come to a resolution. I think it's a lot of puffery on both sides, potentially, and it should be. It'll only hurt both sides. All right, so let's talk about President Trump. You say he can deliver another significant tax reform by getting rid of the inflation tax on capital gains. Do explain.
This is the one thing that President Trump and the Treasury Secretary can do by themselves. They don't need the House and the Senate. They don't need 60 votes in the Senate. This is by rulemaking. You simply say you will no longer, when you pay capital gains on a house, on stocks you own, on a farm, on a small business, land, crypto, anything, any property that you sell, when you and 30 million Americans file capital gains every year. It's not just a few people. 3/4 of them earn less than $200,000 a year. So we have a lot of people being hit with a capital gains tax. And given the inflation of Biden, the day-to-day inflation of the past 30, 40 years, if you bought your house before Carter's inflation, the gain in the value of your home or stocks that you've owned for a long time, or land or your family business, the gain is probably larger on inflation than even the real gain. So saying, we're not going to tax you on the inflation gains, okay? If your house was worth $100,000, it's now worth $200,000, but half of that was inflation, you only pay capital gains on the $50,000, not the $100,000. It is a significant cut in the capital gains tax and ends. But politicians create inflation when they print money, when they create more money. They make inflation happen. Nobody else makes inflation happen, just politicians when they print money, increase the money supply. So there's no reason why the people who create the inflation ought to then benefit by getting more money out of you when you sell a home or a stock or something of value, land, a business. So this can be done. The president understands this. I've had 3 conversations on it with him. The Treasury Secretary has long been a supporter. Ted Cruz is the lead guy in the Senate. There's a bill in the Senate, and there's one in the House, but that's just for discussion points. We're not going to look to pass a piece of legislation at a time when the Democrats could filibuster before an election. We do it by executive order, and that simply allows people will sell houses now rather than wait until they die and do it step up and base it. It will speed up making large houses with a couple whose kids have moved on to be able to sell that, move closer to the kids, and some young couple that would like to have children and have a larger house have access to it immediately. And by the young couple, people don't save in the bank for their down payment. The money's in the stocks for their down payment. When you sell that, you're in a better position to buy the house that you want.
So clearly, this is not a Wall Street issue. This is a homeowner, middle class investor issue, is what you're saying.
And there are actually more Americans who own shares of stock than own their own house. So stock ownership, and this is before the Trump accounts, which is going to get everybody in the stock market, starting with when you're 2 or 3 years old. This is a very dangerous thing for the Democrats because we did some polling a while ago. If you own $5,000 of stock, not $1 jillion, 5,000 or more, makes you 20% more Republican, less Democrat, because you pay attention to the economy. You understand why stocks go up and down. You see the value of a company that you invested in or a mutual fund go up or go down based on what politicians do to help or hurt the economy. This is changing the electorate. Home ownership makes you stable and settled. Share ownership in a 401k and IRA in your pension, that makes you more alert and more Republican.
Pretty remarkable. It's time to get this cleaned up. Can they do it? Will they do it?
We know that the president has spoken well of it. So is the Treasury Secretary. The economists in the White House think it's a good idea and would like to do it. The lawyers say, yes, you can do this. There's always some jerk lawyer going, I don't know. But here's the thing. No one has.
That's my experience, Grover. There's always some jerk lawyer somewhere trying to mess up a deal. I'll give you that. Made me laugh this morning. But you think it can happen then?
It can. First of all, nobody has the authority to challenge it because no one has standing. No one gets hurt by this. So people will be able to sell their homes, sell their stocks, the land that they own, and not have the big hit that capital gains now has. President Reagan ended the inflation tax on your income. They moved those brackets up with inflation. So when you get a fake raise that's just inflation during the Biden years, you don't get pushed into a higher tax bracket. You used to before the Reagan tax cut. We need to do the same thing for capital gains and selling your home and selling stocks and so on that we do for your wages, protected against inflation.
Grover Norquist, always an education, sir. Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you, my friend. This part of the program brought to you by my friends at Longevity. Did you know that over 90% of Americans don't get enough essential vitamins and minerals from food alone? And some research suggests natural vitamins are far better than the ones they create in a laboratory. Longevity, an excellent source of over 20 natural vitamins and minerals from real food sources, not synthetic. A complete nutritional support shake that gives you everything you need to age well. We use it every day in this house. The kid playing football, Ivy getting ready for workouts or post-workouts, and me just when I want to have a little boost in the afternoon. LongevityWellness.co. Enter the promo code Gruber. You're going to get a big special discount at checkout. You're going to like this. Longevity, great partner, great sponsor. LongevityWellness.co. And the promo code Gruber at checkout for a discount. Nice to see you on a Tuesday. I'll be right back. All right, I gotta bring this in because we haven't talked about this at all. Just in passing, I suppose. Lindsay Clancy murdered her own 3 kids, young children, right? And is on trial for that and claims postpartum depression or whatever was the trigger here. What's crazy to me is that there have been like literally hundreds of women outside acting as if she's some sort of hero. It's a psychosis that I do not understand. Look, maybe she had problems. Maybe she did. She murdered her 3 children, having sent her husband away. Premeditated. From what I understand, Josh McConkey, Air Force Colonel, combat physician. Joining me now, also a candidate for Lieutenant Governor, North Carolina. He serves as the Emergency Preparedness Liaison Officer for the National Capital Region, working in emergency management coordination under the Department of Homeland Security, and coordinates with the U.S. Secret Service on POTUS-related events. Colonel, thank you for being here.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much.
What do I not understand about this story? Why are these herds of women? I mean, and I also understand the GoFundMe account has brought in more than $1 million for this woman's defense. How is Lindsay Clancy a hero by any measure?
This is America's morbid fascination with these crimes, these murders. They sensationalize them. You go all the way back to, I mean, I remember the John Benet Ramsey case in Colorado. I mean, it's part of true crimes. They have all these podcasts, TV shows. And I think a lot of women identify with her in that over a quarter of women will have some depression issues, postpartum depression, and they can certainly feel for her and understand some of those issues that she was going through. But at the end of the day, I mean, she murdered 3 children. She wrapped exercise bands around them and choked them to death. So it's a horrific crime. And you think about those 3 children.
Yeah, I do think about who, by the way, these people, 200-300 people a day out there, cheering for her. Do they even say these kids' names? I mean, come on, it was a brutal murder of 3 little kids by their own mom. Help me here.
Yeah, the defense has done a very good job of trying to sow that doubt everywhere from the 82.1 degree temperature that they kind of said was not possible. She hadn't been down on the ground that long for it to fall that quickly, to blood droplets found underneath some furniture that may or may not have been moved. I mean, they're really kind of pushing and grappling. There's been a lot of expert testimony on both sides, from prosecution and defense, from forensic psychiatrists, and they really have shaped it into her being psychotic at the time. There's a diagnosis called postpartum psychosis. And at the end of the day, we have accountability in America, and you murder 3 children. I mean, you can have every excuse in the book, but my goodness, there needs to be some accountability. I can't imagine she'd be acquitted, but you never know.
So you think that, and I felt the same way following this case. To me, though, my concern is more with these people outside. The people that have raised more than $1 million for her defense. The people that treat her as if she's some sort of a victim and a hero. I have more concern with the people outside the courtroom than her in the courtroom in many ways. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, that's America's morbid fascination. And even worse, what if she's acquitted? And so the message that sends is, everyone with PTSD or everyone with some severe depression or psychosis, that's just excuse to go around murdering people. So, it's an interesting case. It's fascinated a large part of America. And then you see the people that are outside protesting and cheering her on.
Yeah, to me, Josh, it signals something deeper in the American psyche that's not good. And that's the devaluation of life. We just saw the state of Massachusetts and Maura Healey, the governor there, sign a bill allowing abortion up to the moment of birth without any excuse. I just decided I want to have a kid. Kill the baby. Now, I don't know how many doctors would actually do it, but there's probably 1 or 2. And that's disgusting. And so you see this devaluation of life in America. You see these medical assistants in dying deals where, I've got anxiety. I don't want to live. And they're gonna put people down like they're a stray dog. And I think that it's a pattern of devaluing life in America. And I think this kind of, for me, brings it into full relief. Do you see that?
I see that as well when that law was passed, and then you see all the women behind just cheering, "Yay, we can murder babies until the day they're born now." As a physician, as a combat veteran, I have seen so much death and destruction. Life is so precious, it is so valuable. I would agree with you. I think there's a large part of America that just devalues that, and it's sad to watch.
Yeah. So part of her defense is that she sought help, went to outpatient providers, tried different drugs, called a suicide hotline, went to the ER, and yet here we are. Last word to you, Colonel, because I think this is a case that I haven't covered it much because I thought, well, that's just weird, and I went on with other things I thought were more important. But in some ways, you have to examine this in the context of the mental health of America at large. Last word to you.
Yeah, and that's the biggest comment is mental health in America. We are at a crossroads. It is a huge crisis. Every day I see anxiety, depression, and suicide. And so my advice for people is to get connected in your community. Be the weight behind the spear. Be the weight behind something or someone that matters. When you become part of your community, you volunteer, you coach, you teach, get into your church, makes a huge difference and will help with those mental crisis issues.
Yeah, you got that right. Josh, always good to see you. Thank you for getting up early.
Steve, thank you.
Really appreciate it. What do you guys tell me? Tell me about this case. What is your take on this case? I really want to know. To me, it's pretty obvious. Okay, she had problems. She murdered 3 little kids, her own, strangled them, and god awful crime. You don't just get to say, well, I wasn't of the right mind and I get to go home. No. Sorry, but no, absolutely not. Not ever, would be my guess. Not ever. But I'll take your thoughts. SteveGruber.com. Send me an email. Love to hear what you have to say from all over this great country of ours. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. I wanted to bring this to your attention. I find this fascinating in today's environment of social media influencers getting paid big money from different places. You hear about APAC a lot, Qatar a lot, and other sources of foreign money flowing into people who have big audiences, 1 million followers, 2 million followers, whatever it might be. Well, Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman from Florida, introducing legislation Monday that would require social media influencers paid by foreign governments to register under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which would make sense. You should register with FAR if you're getting $1 million from somebody or whatever you're getting. The Foreign Propaganda Disclosure Act, co-sponsored by Vicente Gonzalez, Democrat of Texas, Derek Van Orden, Republican, Wisconsin, Jared Moskowitz, Democrat, Florida. It would amend the 1938 law to expressly include social media influencers in the definition of publicity agent. Publicity agent. You're getting paid piles of money by a foreign government to push a narrative that benefits that foreign government. Seems pretty straightforward to me, but I wonder who's getting the most money. Just for the record, to be clear, I get none. I take no money from, and APEC, I guess, would be a domestic source, but I take no money from any of those sorts of places. We have great advertisers here and great partners. That's where the money comes from. We have great partners, most of which are American companies, from what I can recall off the top of my head. But I am curious as to who's getting the big money. Like, how much money is Tucker getting and from where? Candace, how much and from where? And the list goes on, of course. Where's your money coming from? Who is writing the check for what comes out of your mouth? I like this legislation. I hope it passes. I do, and then I hope it's all public information, because, boy, will that be a day to air the dirty laundry, wouldn't it, huh? You'd like to see the list, too, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. Yeah, I see you there in the back. I see you. Yeah, don't you try to hide. It's Daybreak here on a Tuesday. Glad to see you this morning. I'll be right back with more.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome to it. We kick off another hour here on the program. Glad to have you on board. Nice to see you on a Tuesday. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the strange tale of Lindsay Clancy. We're going to dig deeper. She killed her three young kids, but now is being celebrated by hordes of women saying it was not her fault. Very strange indeed. We'll get Ivy to weigh in. Number two, the trade deal with Canada was a lock until Mark Carney sank it. Now President Trump says 50% tariffs will be put in place in January. If a deal cannot be salvaged, we'll have to watch and see. And number three, in Michigan and around the country, Democrats are jumping ship in the wake of the party being taken over by far-left factions that honestly are not Democrats. They're socialists, they're communists, they're whatever they are. They're not Democrats. Ivy's here. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you as well, Steve.
I want to start with this because I see more evidence in Michigan, where we live, that lifelong Democrats are saying, you know what, Abdul El-Sayed is a bridge way too far for me.
That's right.
Listen to this.
We have a state to save, Michigan. My name is Cynthia Haynes, and I'm a resident of Flint, Michigan. I was a Democrat for 37 years. I left the party. I've been an independent for about 3 years. I got to go for morals. And see, that's one thing I like about Mike Rogers. He's talking about faith, family, and finances. His character is amazing. His wife, Christy, is amazing. And he's just so honest. And I told him, I'm like, when I talk with Mr. Rogers, I'm like, look, Mr. Rogers, you know, hey, I need for you to be gangster, to go in there and get this. I need for you to be real 100 in my community. He is just so authentic, and he's a man of God, and I love it. My name is Cynthia Haynes. I'm from Flint, and I'm with Mike Rogers because he will get to work for neighborhoods like mine. Let's get to work.
I love that.
Well, you know, and the thing is, we have Democrat friends, a number of them, that were lifelong Democrats.
Yep.
They began to erode before the 24 election. And with Abdul El-Sayed here in Michigan, the Democrats are losing their grip. If you're losing black women in Flint as a Democrat, you got real problems.
Yeah, I think it's I think it frightens a lot of people when they're seeing communists that are running and are, you know, winning primaries, and they're realizing that, wow, this is at our doorstep. I don't want to vote for a communist, and they're saying that, hey, I need to vote with my morals.
That's right. That's what she's saying.
Right there. She did say that. And and you know, there is something to be said about the amount of information that is available online. If people are savvy about going and finding the information, listening to what people have to say, not little bits and pieces, but what they're actually saying.
Do some actual research.
Yeah. Then they're realizing, you know, the Republican Party might be more on my side than the communists are. So
yeah, there is that.
Yeah, I find that very encouraging. For sure.
We'll see what happens, but I think that, as I said from the beginning, Mike Rogers will win this race. I think he would have won over Haley Stevens as well, but I think he certainly beats Abdul El-Sayed. Well, of course, we won't know until the 3rd of November, but big development. A federal judge has sided with Donald Trump in an executive order
for mail-in ballots.
For mail-in ballots. That's a big deal. It says you have to have an accurate address, an accurate signature, other things before you can mail a ballot in. And so
common sense.
Yeah,
items?
Common sense. Yeah.
Why we had to go to the Supreme Court?
United
for them
States
to tell
Postal
us that?
Service, published a rule Friday that would require states to provide lists of voters who received mail-in ballots to the agency and so on and so forth. That's good news for election integrity. We're making incremental steps that are important.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, before we get too far down the road here, though, Ivy, I got to ask you about this Lindsay Clancy thing. I mean, we haven't paid a lot of attention to it, but we know enough about it to go, why are there hundreds of women out front celebrating her? She murdered her 3 kids.
Yeah, I saw a video a couple days ago. I think it was Frontlines, TPUSA, they were out there filming, and there were hundreds of women out there in support of her. And I just find it very strange and concerning because the reality is she did murder her children. And how, oh man, how dark in your heart do you have to be to literally murder your children? Like she strangled them to death. She was on a tremendous amount of pharmaceutical drugs, to my understanding. She was struggling with some mental health issues. But I think that, you know, using that excuse takes away your culpability. The fact is that you murdered 3 lives.
3 beautiful kids. Look,
3
she
beautiful
sent
children.
her husband away to run errands. It was premeditated.
Yeah.
It wasn't some act of emotion and rage she planned this.
Yeah.
She planned, and she's not the only one. I just found another case. North Dakota mother Kaylee Renee Earhart, Morton County District Court, 2 counts of murder for killing her 2 kids, 2 of her young kids.
Yeah.
Injuring a third. Her preliminary hearing not scheduled till the 6th of October. But what's going on in a country where mothers are murdering their children? I mean, you mentioned the psychotic drugs. We've talked about that before.
Yeah. I don't know enough about either the case to really say, you know, other than if we're dealing with a mental health issue, that certainly says something about, hey, we need to be. I know that postpartum depression is a huge issue with some mothers.
Sure.
It happens. But being able to identify that you have these problems and then going and getting help is a responsibility of yourself and your significant other, especially, you know, when you start feeling that way. But I'm not sure what to say, Steve. This just hurts my heart so much that not only for the lives that were lost, but the mothers who now have to like live the rest of their lives realizing that they murdered their children. And how awful. I mean, all I can say is those people probably need Jesus in their lives, and to set them free from whatever it is that they're struggling with. He's the hope, right? The way and the life. And so I just, I'm not sure what else to say. It's just very, very sad that these women would come out and support murdering of children. But I guess when we're in a country that you can have abortion to the moment of birth, perhaps I'm not surprised. But I wish we could get away from that for sure.
I agree. Look, it's a crazy, tough case, but I do not understand the psychosis that takes it.
Yeah.
Look, I get her being on trial, and I get there's all these circumstances, but it's the hundreds of people outside,
That's
mostly
right,
women with
yeah.
a few guys,
So it makes me
defending
sick
her.
to my stomach.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
And it hurts your heart, which that makes sense. I know you well. Anyhow, we're going to keep watching this case and see how it plays out. Closing argument should be within a few days.
It's whether or not she's going to be, found criminally responsible for killing her children or not, or whether she spends her life in prison or her life in a mental institution. So.
Or gets released. I mean, acquittal is still possible, right? I mean,
well, she'll still have to spend time in a mental institution.
I would
either
think
way.
so. I would hope so.
Yeah.
But we'll have to follow the case to find out. Ivy, nice to see you. I love you.
Nice to see you as well.
All right.
Love you.
We'll take a break. What do you think about this case? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. I really want to know what you guys think about this. It's strange to me. All right? Back after this. Well, let's circle back to the term got used a lot with Donald Trump and never paid off for the folks. But now this term seems appropriate to me. The walls are closing in on Anthony Fauci. I mean, you see people around him being convicted of committing crimes as related to COVID. And it's pretty clear from the email chain, the diary, and now his cell phone that Anthony Fauci said one thing in public and completely different things in private. Don Brown is a former U.S. Senate candidate, former Navy JAG officer, and a good friend of this program. He's an attorney, former federal prosecutor. Don, good morning.
Good morning to you, Steve. Good to see you this morning.
Nice to see you. Look, Anthony Fauci's legal troubles are piling up. Now, he may have a pardon from Joe Biden, but I know, for example, the state of Florida and other states are considering pursuing legal action against him from the state level, which to me means his pardon is meaningless, right?
His pardon is for federal crimes from 2014 until Joe Biden stepped out of office in January of 2025. Thank God he stepped out of office finally. But not for state crimes. And so he's been investigated in Louisiana, Florida, I think one other. And the key here, Steve, is going to be the financial flow. Where is the money? Who made what when? You know, remember this. Not only was Anthony Fauci the highest paid federal employee, $480,000 made more money than the president of the United States. But, Steve, his pension is the highest known pension in American history from a U.S. government employee at $350,000. Steve, his pension is higher than the salary of the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. It's higher than the Speaker of the House, higher than the Secretary of State. He's making a ton of money. And the other thing that folks are forgetting is he's been able to use his position as a government employee to become inventor on patents and make royalties from those patents. And Steve, we don't know what those numbers are because the NIH hasn't given us the numbers. There was a federal act passed in '86 allowing him to dip his finger into patent royalties from money that he used with government research to invent these patents. And so the other question we got to look in my opinion, is not just what the damage caused by the experimental jabs, but also remdesivir, which was also an experimental drug, which had an up to 60% mortality rate in Africa before Fauci's own office, NIAID, pushed it on as COVID regimen in the United States. A lot of people died from that, Steve.
That's
and
right.
So it's closing in, just like you say, brother. It
So
certainly is.
you said something there, and I've heard this before, and I've been confused about this. You work for the United States government. You're in some laboratory paid for by United States taxpayers. You come across something, an invention, a patent, whatever it is, and you get to keep that. That doesn't work that way at any Fortune 500 company in the world. If you work for a Fortune 500 company and you invent or create something, that is the intellectual property of that company because they paid the freight for research and development. Why is the American taxpayer getting, frankly, screwed?
It's a good question. It needs to change. It goes back to a federal act called the Transfer Technology Act of 1986. And under that act, if you and I are working and we were research types and geeks and we came up with this invention, the government would own the patent, but we're entitled to royalties. And although there's a policy to cap the royalties, the NIH refuses to say how much Fauci has made in royalties. Judicial Watch and some other public interest law firms have tried to get it. What we know is that from an 11-year period from 2010 to 2021, 37 royalty payments were given to Fauci. Now, that is in addition to his $450,000 salary. In addition to whatever he makes off books, he's got a book deal that he signed with a $5 million advance with Viking in 2024. But they won't tell us the numbers that have been paid. It's absolutely ridiculous. They're taking your tax dollars, my tax dollars, using that to research and profiting from royalties from the patents. Fauci himself owns, for example, several AIDS-related patents. But we don't know how much money this guy squirreled away. You know, he's got these millions and millions of dollars, yet he somehow needs a legal defense fund, which is another issue in and of itself. But really, it comes back to the question that I pointed out earlier: where is the money? Follow the money trail, and I suspect you'll find some pretty dirty fingerprints all over it, Steve.
So here's the simple question for you, sir. Based on everything you know, the diaries, the cell phone, the interactions, the emails, everything that's piled up on Anthony Fauci, it's like a log jam in the river in April, right? It's about to burst. Is he a criminal?
Yes, I think he's committed a very deadly fraud against the people of the United States, against the people in my home state of North Carolina. He comes out and he says, safe and effective with these COVID jabs, knowing full well they're under an emergency use authorization. Now the FDA has conceded there are myocarditis issues. People are dropping dead. Young people are just dropping out. Remdesivir took out 2 of my friends. And he's pushed these things. And, you know, there are state laws which require truth in advertising in just about every state in the country, here in North Carolina and other states as well. I'm hoping these Republican attorneys general in Louisiana and Florida will get to the bottom of it. I've called upon every Republican attorney general to initiate investigations in their states. If we ever get a Republican attorney general in North Carolina, I hope that'll be the case here as well. But I think he's got blood on his hands and a lot of money in his pocket. And I think he's going to need to pay, and probably sooner than later, we hope.
One last question. I got 30 seconds, sir. It looks like Roy Cooper has a pretty good lead over Michael Whatley in the race to be the next senator from the state of North Carolina. That would be a loss for the Republicans. Can Michael Whatley win this race? 20 seconds to you.
Sure he can. We've got 70 days. If you expose Cooper's record, you see Cooper is the most radical governor in North Carolina history. He trashed the Constitution during COVID. He vetoed the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. In other words, he thinks it's okay to kill babies born of botched abortions. You know, he's got a disastrous record with law enforcement. If Michael can expose Roy's record, he can take him out. That's going to be Michael's challenge in the next 70 days. I was out speaking for him last night, and we'll continue to do so, everything we can do.
Don Brown, always a good conversation, sir. Thank you for being here early. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Steve. Hope to see you soon.
You're watching Daybreak. We'll be right back. All right, I mentioned this earlier. I want to mention it again because it's important. The United States Postal Service published a rule to block mail-in ballots from states that do not provide voter lists. The United States Postal Service publishing a rule that would require states to provide lists of voters who receive mail-in ballots to the agency. It would mandate that all states that plan to use the United States Postal Service to send in mail ballots notify the agency at least 90 days before an election, and providing mail-in ballots at least 60 days before the election. Any state that intends to receive mail-in or absentee ballots from individual voters through the Postal Service must ensure that such individuals have been enrolled for inclusion on the state's mail-in and absentee participation list. You must submit name and address, a uniquely serialized intelligence mail barcode on both the outbound federal ballot and the return ballot sent to the individual. So you had that, and you had the Supreme Court support the Postal Service as well. Like I say, there are incremental improvements. And everybody's watching now, right? Everybody's watching. So it's not going to be so easy to game the system, as it were. It's just not going to be that easy to game the system. AMAC exists for one reason, to fight for you, and they sponsor this hour of the program. While organizations like AARP grow closer to big government, AMAC is growing stronger in Washington to defend the values that made America great: faith, family, freedom, and opportunity. AMAC believes in the freedom of religion and speech, the right to keep and bear arms, free enterprise and personal responsibility, common sense solutions instead of government control, and AMAC refuses to stand by while radical policies from blue states threaten our families, our livelihoods, our safety, and our future. AMAC is no longer just an alternative to AARP. They are the leading conservative voice for seniors and patriotic Americans. With a rapidly expanding presence in Washington, AMAC standing toe-to-toe with AARP's massive lobbying machine and winning. Join AMAC today and help us replace failed big government policies with common sense, pro-America solutions. America needs AMAC. AMAC needs you. Stand with us today. Go to amac.us/RAV. Go to amac.us/RAV. Become a member like I am. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. The government, at the federal level and the state level, the government in general, continues to set aside money for jobs that are not filled. Seems odd to me. But it represents millions, possibly billions of dollars. Jonathan Deaver is a former Ohio State rep, former chair of the Ohio House Financial Institutions Housing and Urban Development Committee, a retired attorney, founder and CEO of Wyoming Charter Digital Bank, chief operating officer of Proximity, and the author of the forthcoming Grift trilogy. He's a busy man. Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you. How are you this morning?
I am well. You're very busy.
I tend to be.
But this, which is good. If you want something done, find a busy person. If you want nothing done, find somebody who's not doing anything. Big government spending billions of dollars to pay someone for jobs that nobody's doing. I don't understand. And I read through this about North Carolina specifically. $1 billion in lapsed salaries, they call it, lapsed salaries. Why do you continue to budget and set aside money when there's nobody to pay? It seems very odd to me. Please help.
That is the actual question. Part of the problem that they have down there, according to the state auditor, and to be perfectly honest, this isn't a Republican or a Democrat problem. This is a universal problem. It's a typical inefficient government. The auditor's report down there explicitly lays out about $1.04 billion. Now, the sad part is when they allocate this, the legislature is sending these monies and these dollars to these agencies, but they just absorb it and they use it for other purposes. So it's just additional bloat. Now, these dollars are earmarked for these positions, but they're not filling them. And the auditor down there found this and just reported it back to the legislature. But typical of most legislatures, I've been in one, so I can speak with honesty, that they're really, really good at finding a problem, but they're terrible at fixing one.
Yeah, so much truth to that. You know, I come back to Doge, which I think was a great idea, and it's now been, decentralized. They're still trying to find waste, fraud, and abuse. Every agency's been charged to do that in the federal government. But North Carolina, so you send $1 billion, and look, this is not going to be unique to North Carolina. You send $1 billion to an agency, and let me see here. They had, I had the accounting, $375 million for corrections at $228 million, commerce $226 million, $1 million from 684 jobs that are not filled and maybe have been eliminated altogether. But you're right, this money goes to an agency, and they don't say, hey, we don't have any place to put this, take it back. They never do that, do they?
Never. That is the problem. We saw recently at the federal level, the vice president rolled out the fraud website, and I know you covered that as well. And so the question that I laugh about in Washington is they argue about whether it's fraud or not fraud. And in my view, it's a distraction over the problem that we're spending about $3 trillion annually on interest out of our national debt. That's all refinanced recently. We're paying interest on that, and it's fraud, waste, abuse, and inefficiencies. So we have these massive structural accountability gaps inside of government. Now, you can call it fraud if you want. You don't have to call it fraud if you don't want to. We do have fraud in our government. We do have duplicated services, but we have massive structural accountability problems in every state and in the federal government. And everyone's looking to point a finger, but there's universal finger pointing. I mean, my dad always used to tell me if you point a finger at one person, you've got four showing right back at yourself, right? So in North Carolina specifically, the Republican auditor's report showed the state and the state employees union agreed on the numbers. They just disagreed on how they wanted to interpret it, which in a way is a proof that this isn't truly partisan. It's just bad government across the board. As you mentioned, North Carolina is not uniquely bad at this. Every state does the same thing. Personally, I haven't done the comparative data analysis yet because this one really kind of flashpoint to me, but I guarantee you it's a generic feature on how most states work, and it's not something unique to North Carolina.
Yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit with you because of your wide range of experience. Banking is not the same today as it was, heck, even 5 years ago. Right? It becomes more digital and changes all the time. Wyoming became an important laboratory for digital asset banking. And I ask this because if I read the headlines, right, coming up on September the 12th, the Clarity Act is going to be debated. The Clarity Act, which could open up cryptocurrency to really new heights. I mean, this is a big deal to people who own Bitcoin or XRP or whatever you might own, right? Tell me about this.
Maybe not. I mean, the way I look at the technology, there's two different components. I mean, banking is traditionally very, very draconian in its desire to adopt new technologies. I laugh a lot about the Genie network, the ATM network. When that came out, everybody thought the world was going to end. It was a massive Chicken Little moment inside of banking, and now everybody takes it for granted. The ability to go get cash at an ATM machine, everybody thinks of that as standard and normal today. But back in the 70s, when they were rolling that out, and for me as a Cincinnatian, it came out of my hometown, so it's something I'm familiar with the Fifth Third banking. But now everybody takes advantage of it and uses it. And part of the problem back then is they thought that the technology would take away from the ability of the bankers to sell their products and services inside of the envelope of the building. Turned out to be not true. This is a new technological application. Blockchain's been around since probably the 60s or 70s, but this application can make things a lot faster inside of the banking ecosystem. So some people want to look at it from the standpoint of cryptocurrencies. I tended to look at it more of along the lines that if I can send money at the speed of light to somebody across the planet, Swift sometimes takes 2, 3, up to 14 days for a check to clear. Imagine the speed and the efficiencies that we can implement inside of banking.
The truth of the matter is it does happen instantly, but the bank doesn't release your money for 3, 4, 5, 7 days, whatever it is, while they're using your money and loaning your money and making interest on your money while you're getting no money. So they use they slow the system down to advantage themselves, do they not?
Yes, they do. And that's part of the reason why going to a purely digital system where you have a complete accountability on the transaction and it lands instantaneously. It can reduce the cost. I mean, we're all consumers, every single one of us at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
I don't want to go and spend $25, $30, $40 for a certified check. If I can push a button and the money lands and arrives, and we can reduce those costs, it's going to reduce the cost of capital for businesses. It's going to reduce the cost of loans for people who are trying to buy or refinance. And for the Automobile Dealers Association and for those that are financing automobiles, makes automobiles a lot more affordable too. Most of our cost is tied up in the cost of money at this point, and in those latent inefficiencies. So if we can get rid of inefficiencies, make things more efficient and effective inside of that ecosystem, that banking structure, that's just going to benefit all of us.
Only got about 40 seconds here, but tell us about the book. Where can people find it? What is it?
It goes in line with where we started today. The Grift is really about the art of the extraction that we see in all of our institutions and our systems. And you can find me over at Substack. Just look for Deaver Dialogue and keep subscribe. If you subscribe there, you'll get updates on the book as well.
There you go. Jonathan, good conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Great to have you.
Really appreciate it. There you have it. All right. It's Daybreak. You can always reach me at stevegruber.com. Follow me on YouTube. That channel is growing by leaps and bounds. You can become a subscriber for free. 24 episodes of the Forgotten America podcast are sitting there waiting for you to enjoy. Look at that. It's a beautiful thing. Subscribe for free. Tell your friends they can subscribe for free too. Easiest thing you're going to do all day. I'll be right back. You know, I haven't talked much about this story, but it is a little bit I talked about it. But I saw Bill Maher talk about it. I was gone unexpectedly yesterday. It was not part of the plan. I got delayed over the weekend and couldn't make it back in time. So I apologize for that. But I saw Bill Maher come out and say, what is the University of Michigan doing? Not giving grades? It is quite embarrassing and become the brunt of many jokes. Go ahead and listen to this.
As an FBI agent, Mike Rogers fought.
Let's talk about higher education, shall we? Because this is not the only story in the news. Quite a few. University of Michigan?
Mm-hmm, where I went, yes.
That's where you went?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I wish I wouldn't have had grades. I would have been great.
Right. They're going to no grades now. And the reason given?
Just as freshmen or for the whole thing?
I'm not sure about that. But what
it doesn't matter.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're saying it because sometimes a kid gets a bad grade and it makes them sad. I'm not making that up. I mean, I know Trump University is a scam, but when there's no grades, isn't that a scam too? This is not just the beginning, I mean, the end of the rot in higher education. It started long ago when they stopped teaching people things because they became indoctrination centers.
Yeah, became indoctrination centers. Pretty remarkable. No grades. Man, that'd make life easy, wouldn't it? No grade. Pass or fail. Do your best. It's like, this is the University of Michigan. Supposedly one of the premier educational institutions in America. And this is the way it's just flat out embarrassing. It is flat out embarrassing is what that is. Let's see here. You saw a little preview of it, so here's a new ad from Mike Rogers from a group opposing Abdul El-Sayed. Listen.
As an FBI agent, Mike Rogers fought organized crime and public corruption. Now he's got Washington in his sights. He'll ban congressional stock trading, audit government agencies to stop fraud, and stop benefits for illegal immigrants. Abdul El-Sayed, another millionaire bureaucrat, a second home in Dubai. El-Sayed supports giving illegals benefits that you pay for. We need a change. Michigan needs Mike Rogers. GLCF is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Yeah, there you go. Kind of like Mike Rogers. He's going to win. He's connecting with all sorts of Democrat voters as well as they are, changing their direction. Trade war with Canada. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not going to get too excited about this. Trump said if they don't get their act together on a trade deal, which they agreed to, and then Mark Carney sank. I know because I was talking to people from the American delegation to Canada. That was all done. They had a great deal. Everybody was pleased with it. And all of a sudden, Mark Carney comes back and sinks the deal. And Trump says, okay, fine. How about 50% tariffs starting January 1? Canada sends 75%. 75% of its exports come to America. If there are 50% tariffs, that's not going to work very well for them. Scott Besson says it's best if Canada just comes to the table. Listen to this.
The United States and President Trump still want Canada to become a state. He did say that they're getting all the benefits of being a state without being one.
I think he would like Canada to come to the table and negotiate in good faith. They were offered quite a good deal last week. They chose to reject it. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Carney rose to power on an anti-American, anti-Trump platform. I believe he was more than 20 points behind, and he seems to have gone back to his old playbook. And I think one has to ask oneself, is he trying to benefit himself, the Liberal Party, or the Canadian people? Because they were offered a very good job. So
they're offered something pretty decent. Look, I'm not going to get too excited about this one yet. We'll see where it goes. Besson then turned his attention, by the way, during that same conversation to cutting Iran off financially from the rest of the world in a way that they've never seen before. Here it is.
Action. Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities. For example, every branch of Bank Melay must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the US dollar system. The clock just started ticking. The new sectoral sanctions determinations issued today target 5 of Iran's most vital lifelines that it exploits in other countries.
You have been warned. They called it Economic D-Day, right? So it's interesting. I think Bessent is doing a remarkable job from the things that I'm able to see, read, and understand. Dealing with Canada, dealing with Iran, dealing with the rest of the world, dealing with the globalists, right? It's pretty impressive because he's moving at light speed all the time. And at this point, I support everything he's doing at this point in the conversation. Boy, like I said, I was gone for an extra day, got shanghaied a little bit, got stopped in our tracks, bad travel day, so I missed seeing you yesterday, and I apologize. But I got back to my ghost bed today. Oh, boy. Man, I killed it on my Aura score today. I like traveling. I like seeing different stuff. If I could travel with my ghost bed, if they'd make a portable model, I would take it everywhere I go. I would. Look, it's made in America. We've used it for about 5 months, I guess. Absolutely love it. The technology built into this bed is incredible. It's American-made. You can try it for 101 days, no risk. If you truly don't like it, which I would be surprised, but if you truly don't like it, you can send it back. Just call them. They will pick it up at your house, no questions asked. And their pricing is better than anybody else. I mean, it's incredibly important that you sleep and you rejuvenate yourself, which is, I feel great today. I'm not going to kid you. I feel fabulous. Right now, for limited time, the Labor Day sale, you'll get an extra 10% off. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10% off the Labor Day sale right now at ghostbed.com. For 250 years. All right, let's check it on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 10 games in Major League Baseball last night. American League winners included Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and Texas. National League winners included Washington, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. Also in MLB, the Houston Astros fired general manager Dana Brown yesterday after nearly 4 seasons at the helm. The Astros are 65-66 and in second place in the American League West, but they've lost 6 of their last 8 games. At the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, 4 elimination games yesterday. Canada beat Panama 3-2. Japan knocked out Czechia 3-2. Ohio eliminated Texas 6-1, and Alabama took down Pennsylvania 6-5 in extra innings. 2 games in the WNBA last night. Golden State won at Minnesota 80-66, and Atlanta got past LA 78-71. Angel Reese set a league single-game record with 26 rebounds for the Dream. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock. So the big deal is this today. South Carolina's runoff election to fill the ballot to replace the late Lindsey Graham, who died in July unexpectedly at the age of 71. His sister, Darlene Graham, is up against Ralph Norman. She has the advantage coming in because she has the endorsement of Donald Trump, of Tim Scott, the sitting senator, of McMaster, the governor, and so on and so forth. But Ralph Norman, conservative member of Congress, is the exact kind of candidate who could outperform in a low turnout election. I don't know who's going to win here. I like Ralph Norman. I do not know Darlene Graham. Ralph Norman I've talked to a number of different times on this program and on America's Voice Live in the afternoon. A good conservative, but everybody lined up behind Darlene Graham, including Congressman Fry, who came in third in that primary election. So we'll see. Right now, I would say it's Graham 51. Excuse me. Yeah, Graham 51, Norman 49. But I wouldn't be surprised by an upset today in South Carolina. I'm just on the record there. I would not be surprised if Ralph Norman sneaks us out in a low turnout election because he has a rock solid base. We'll see. It's daybreak. Nice to see you on a Tuesday.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, let's kick it off right and get right into it. Nice to see you today here on a Tuesday. Glad you're on board. It is daybreak. Three big things this hour. Number one, the owner of the San Francisco 49ers arrested in Ohio in a prostitution sting. $140. He owns the San Francisco 49ers. He's the chief executive officer, apparently. I guess he's the chief executive. I thought it was the owner. Maybe it's the CEO of the 49ers. I'm guessing he'll be unemployed by the end of the day. In Michigan, number two, Jocelyn Benson keeps Michigan voter rolls under wraps for now. I'll have to get Brock to weigh in on the 49ers. And number three, I need you to hear this. It's really important. I need you to hear this. This is a collection of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, the ones taking over the Democrat Party, talking about what needs to happen in America for them to have political power. And they say violence. Violence is what they need. Openly calling for violence is the DSA in their conversations recorded on, these video calls. Listen to this.
We have seen that the Democratic Party establishment that we have has to be ripped out. We can actually start to grab hold of the ship of state and steer it in our direction, but it's going to be a violent process.
Our country needs to change, and this Democratic Party needs to change. I was more than glad to go on Hassan's stream. This is we need as Democrats, we need to go into these spaces.
Israel has a plan of creating a greater Israel in the Middle East.
And Eretz Israel would require Israel to expand, quintuple its size by eating up half of Lebanon, parts of Iraq, parts of Egypt, most of Jordan, parts of Iran.
It's not an accident that the same people that will take the AIPAC money take all the other money too. Where they're messaging each other like, oh, there's a war over here. Won't that be profitable for us? What if we started some instability over there?
AIPAC doesn't care about democracy. AIPAC cares about what AIPAC cares about, which is the corporate interests, the billionaire class, and perpetuating this U.S. colony in the Middle East that is only able to exist with our taxpayer support.
U.S. colony. I'm pretty sure it was the British mandate prior to it being Israel. Not the U.S. mandate, the British mandate. At any rate, so violent process, violence to tear down America. These are not good people. This is why these people are dangerous. They want to attack everything about America, from Thanksgiving to the 4th of July to open borders to the Senate to the Supreme Court to the presidency of the United States. They want to tear it all down, all of it. And maybe that's why Republicans are doing so much better than they should be, historically speaking. Doing so much better than they should be, historically speaking. I mean, the Democrats should have an easy inside track to getting, majorities, maybe in the House and certainly in the Senate. It's not shaping up that way. In fact, Republicans are doing far better with the working class. CNN, man, it's got to be tough on CNN when they have to share this kind of polling. Listen.
The fact that Trump's economic net approval rating is negative, that all of a sudden Democrats are trusted more? They are not trusted more. Look at this. Party that, well, isn't that interesting? Sometimes you get the slide cut off a little bit here, but there we go. We'll put that P right there. Party white non-college trust more on the economy. Look at this. It's Republicans, plus 16 points. Republicans are still trusted more on the economy. And this gets back to what I'm saying here. What is this? What is this? Hold on. It's not a, give me this. It's not a question mark. It's an exclamation point. It's an exclamation point from Kate, my producer. Everyone sucks. Everyone sucks. Everybody sucks. That's what's going on here. Everybody sucks. And you can see this right here. Look at the inflation. Look at the inflation. Which party do white non-college voters trust more in inflation? Despite Trump's absolutely devastating decline, going down to what was that, a 60-point switcheroo? On inflation, the Republican Party is still trusted more by 16 points. So even if Trump isn't liked, it's not all of a sudden like the Democrats are all of a sudden trusted on this. The fact that Trump's economic net approval rating is negative, that all of a sudden Democrats are trusted more?
No. 16 points and 16 points. Remarkable. Affordability is what the Democrats are beating the drum about day after day after day, and yet they're down 16 points on who can handle the economy better among working class people. People that have lower incomes than the college-educated elites, right? Pretty telling, isn't it? The people that are allegedly hurt the most by affordability trust the Democrats the least. Pretty crazy. Here's something else, by the way, and part of, let's just be honest about it. The Abdul El Sayed question is, as Jesse Waters did a good interview with him yesterday, Sharia law comes up, and he says that has nothing to do with anything, and there's no Sharia to be concerned with in America. Well, people are concerned. And they're concerned about what that would mean, potentially. They are. And here's a Muslim warning you today. And I want to share this with you because this is just something I found fresh on social media. Warning you, you must get rid of your dog. Get rid of your dog. Here it is.
Do you know that having dogs in your home without any valid reason causes you to lose huge amounts of rewards daily and also keeps angels away from your home? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ warns us about this in an authentic hadith, saying, whoever keeps a dog, except for herding, hunting, or farming, will have 2 qirats of good deeds deducted every day. And it is said that a qirat is equivalent to a huge mountain. So if you're losing 2 qirats, that means you're losing 2 mountains daily. And it gets worse. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ also said that no angel will enter a home with a dog inside. Imagine your home where you pray, make dua, and seek blessings. Angels stay away from because of a dog. Islam teaches us to be kind to animals, but also follow guidance. So if you or anybody that you know owns a dog without any valid reason, think twice. Share this so others can learn.
Oh, I did share it so others can learn, all right. Thank you for the advice. That's exactly what I did. I shared so others can learn you're not allowed to have a dog as a pet. I don't know about cats. Are cats legal? Anybody know? Can anybody? Are cats legal? Dogs apparently are not. Isn't that crazy? Can't have a dog. Yeah, you go ahead and tell how many dog owners are there in America? 100 million, probably. Maybe more. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm gonna have to get a number for you. What are your thoughts on that one? God, I want to hear from you on this one. SteveGruber.com. You want to give up your dog so you can be blessed? You see, because I feel I'm blessed by having a dog. Or 2, as it is. But I want your thoughts. I do. Maybe there's a reason that this election is so up for grabs. And also all eyes on South Carolina and the runoff between Graham and Norman. We'll have more after the break. Nice to see you on a Tuesday.
Maybe it's time to get a couple more dogs, Steve.
Maybe. All right, back to it now. I bring in my friend and colleague, Katie Hyde, who is the news director at Michigan News Source, because she knows stuff I don't. She's just smarter than I am. Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. I'll take that compliment.
Of course you will. Why wouldn't you? Happy Tuesday. All right, some stories in the headlines at MichiganNewsSource.com that I think have, well, they have implications not just for Michigan, but some of them are farther reaching. Jocelyn Benson running for governor here, the Democrat nominee, also the current Secretary of State, who refuses to allow anybody to look at the voter rolls in Michigan. Do tell.
And this has been an ongoing theme of her time in office, Steve. How many times have I been on this show and discussed reporting on these court cases where Benson has said, I'm not going to turn over the voter rolls, or I'm not going to clean up the voter rolls, and then it goes to court and loses, or sometimes gets a victory, which is what we're seeing in this most recent case. The U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals declined to rehear a case before the full court. And what that did is it left intact a June ruling that rejected the Department of Justice's effort to obtain Michigan's complete voter registration list. So what the DOJ has been saying to Michigan and other states is that we need that information to determine whether the state of Michigan is complying with federal voter list maintenance requirements under several acts. And what Benson has always pushed back on is that states run elections and that the federal government cannot have access to private voter data. The sticking point is, though, Steve, is that the federal government already has our private data. It administers our social security numbers. Obviously, it knows our names. Addresses are easier to find. We know what precincts we vote in. And so the question that we cannot get answered is, what private information are you protecting? And if that can't clearly be answered, then it does beg the question, then what are you hiding? Which is what people have been pushing back on. And you raised another concern. We have Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, who is in charge of elections in this state, and she's running as the Democratic nominee for Michigan governor. Now, she says that she's put up some firewalls and said that she's not going to oversee the result of her own election, but in her own edict that she put out saying that she'd established that firewall, she still gets final say over how the election turns out. So I doubt that these court battles over voter information and requests from the federal government are over.
No, gosh, no. I think that, litigate it early and often. And so let's bring that in with what happened in the United States Postal Service, because the Supreme Court sided with Donald Trump saying, yeah, you got to be able to prove who's sending in a ballot, basically. That's my takeaway. Do I have it right?
Yes, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with the Trump administration and said that his executive order restricting mail-in voting, they let it stand. But what's unclear with that is how is it going to be implemented? Because as you know, it's not just election day, it's election season, and we are heading into it right now. You have absentee ballots that are going out, you have early voter registration, you have early voting. And so how that is implemented is different from the decision. The Supreme Court says one thing, but then you have logistics that you have to get squared away. The question is, would Michigan abide by that? Based on the coverage that we've done, I expect a fight from Jocelyn Benson.
Yeah, I would expect you're right. And one more story I want to get to here, and we'll keep an eye on that, of course. The Arab American Chamber has fired its executive director. Apparently there's money missing, Katie, that cannot be accounted for. Do tell.
Well, and not just a couple of dollars and cents, $1 million that they can't account for. And what the American Arab Chamber did is they fired their director on Friday. His name is Bilal Hamoud. And it prompted the Dearborn-based organization to get an attorney and investigate what has happened. The funds under scrutiny are apparently $1 million provided by the taxpayer-funded Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And the money, that $1 million, was earmarked for one of the Chamber's business incubators. Now, the Chamber says that it is cooperating with investigators and Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel. What's interesting is that Dana Nessel has been an outspoken critic of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which really is a darling organization of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Nessel has referred to it as a quasi-public, quasi-private organization that's kind of a nebulous to describe. But Governor Whitmer has repeatedly used the MEDC to funnel taxpayer dollars to these failed mega site projects across Michigan. And so the fact that this is coming back to bite the administration, so to speak, now is a problem, especially with Nestle speaking out against it. And so the significance of this, not just the missing $1 million, but this is not the first time the American Arab Chamber has been under scrutiny. Its former director, Faye Bedouin, is a ally of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and she's facing 16 charges for something similar. And Dana Nessel is pursuing that. So a lot of questions about where our taxpayer money is going, and that should concern everyone.
It should concern everyone, and I agree with you on that. So where is the money? What is happening? And Dana Nessel, apparently at odds with Jocelyn Benson on a few things. That seems to be some friction between those two. Last word to you.
The girl boss trifecta is splintering, would be my assessment. And we're moving towards November. And so there's going to be a big shakeup. And what Nessel does beyond this, we don't know. We know Benson's running for governor, and Governor Whitmer has been term limited. But beyond that, we'll see where things shake up with what they plan to do in the future. But follow us at MichiganNewsSource.com. I had to get that in.
Well done. Well done. MichiganNewsSource.com for... look, Michigan is the most critical swing state 2026. I think it was the most critical swing state for the last several election cycles. It has not changed. If you want to stay up with what's happening, who's in the headlines and why, MichiganNewsSource.com. Headed up by that young lady right there, Katie Hyde. Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always appreciate it. There you have it. I'm going to take a break and be back. Nice to see you this Tuesday on Daybreak. All right, back to it now. Just a little human interest story on the side here. I like to do those sometimes because, well, we do a lot of news and different things, right? So let's see what we got here. Skeletal remains, believed to be a person sacrificed during rituals in Peru, has been unearthed by archaeologists. Not far from pyramids in Lima. The skeletons believed to be those of a man who may have been sacrificed during a ritual which a canal linked to ceremonial pools was closed. The discovery has been dated to around the year 650, so it's 1,400 years old. Peru's Culture Ministry said in a release while releasing multiple images. Gladys Paz, the archaeologist who led the excavation, said the bones will help researchers better understand the rituals of the Lima culture. Reconstruct ceremonies performed hundreds of years ago. It was buried inside a canal was the body, resting on its left flank with the skull facing the pyramid and the Pacific Ocean. One of the most significant aspects of the discovery is the architecture of the ceremonial well. Unlike other known structures, characterized by the use of small mud bricks, this well was built with river stones. The Lima culture flourished between the 1st and 7th centuries along Peru's arid coast, 700 years before the rise of the Inca Empire. Huaca Cuclana was one of the most important ceremonial and administrative centers in this culture. Disappeared centuries before a group of Spanish conquistadors founded Lima in 1535. Today, the pyramid is surrounded by parks, leafy streets, upscale apartment buildings, and a lot more. It's open to tourists with a restaurant serving Peruvian specialties like ceviche. According to Peru's government, there are more than 400 archaeological sites across metropolitan Lima. And, what was that? Apocalypto? Was that the name of the movie where they sacrifice people graphically and their heads rolled down the pyramid? Disturbing, to say the least. Anyhow, just a little side story into the culture section of the newspaper. How about that? All right, I'll take a break. We'll continue Daybreak in a moment. All right. Been a busy Tuesday. It's always odd to get back to work when you've had an unexpected day off. So we're just catching up on a Tuesday. Here's something I've often wondered. Why is it that stills, private distilling, is still illegal in America? I don't get it. Tyler Martinez is the director of litigation at the NTUF Taxpayer Defense Center. Tyler practiced strategic litigation against the government overreach since 2011. He joins me now. Tyler, if I want to make gin in my bathtub and I want to pay all the taxes and fill out all the forms, it's still illegal for me to do in my home what I want to do in my home, isn't it?
That's right. It's still illegal. Unlike brewing beer at your own house, which you're allowed to do, you can't make gin, you can't make bourbon. You can make beer, but that's thanks to Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter actually changed that law back in the 70s. But here in
why?
Why? Well, the government claims it's because they're not sure that they could tax you enough. Now, the challenge here in this case that we're talking about today, John Ream is willing to fill out all the forms. He's willing to pay the taxes. He's willing to do all of those things so that he can distill at home. He can make his own, liquor of whatever kind. So, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. If anybody in your audience wants to pour out some moonshine, this is the time to do it. But that's why the government says it needs it, because they since they can't 100% tax it, they're worried that they won't be able to do it, and so they have to ban it.
So they can't tax it properly. So is it really a tax issue? You say, dear Supreme Court, is it really a taxing power? I mean, look, when I was a kid, 17 or whatever, I got a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook. And one of the things it shows in there is how to make a home still, as I recall, and a lot of other things. And I always found that fascinating, creating your own still. But, of course, I don't like the idea of spending time in jail for some moonshine, so I've never done it. But it's always been something that I've been curious about. And I think a lot of people would be curious about doing it. But they don't do it because they're afraid of the long arm of the law, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is a real thing. The government really does enforce this ban. If you think about way back to Prohibition, the people that enforced that were called revenuers, because it was the Department of Revenue that took care of this and went after moonshiners. That's how we actually have NASCAR too. NASCAR was people running liquor and trying to get away from the police. So we have a long storied history with alcohol. America was built on it. The founders threw an epic party when they had finished the Constitution. It's so epic that people are, still look at it to this day of what Washington spent. George Washington had his own still, very famously at Mount Vernon in his home. And not only did he brew it or distill it for his own use, he sold it out nearby Alexandria and then the future Washington, D.C. This has always been very important to Americans. And the idea that, I can't do something in my own home because the government wants to tax it, fine, tax it. They tax everything else that people do for income or sales or anything else. If I sell something on Etsy, I still have to worry about paying those taxes as well.
Well, let me get this straight. Just in 2026, if I'm not mistaken, sir, I can grow weed. I don't care to, but I can grow weed for personal use at my house, but I can't make a bottle of bourbon. Am I right on that?
So the government also says you still can't grow weed at your own house as well. That was a case from the 1990s that said, well, you're not allowed to grow weed, even if you don't sell it to anybody, even if it's just for your own consumption. There was a lady with, I believe, glaucoma who in California, when California was one of the first states that had medical marijuana, and she wanted to grow her own, and the government said no. So this case has big ramifications. It would allow freedom in a lot of different ways. And we've already seen in the area of brewing that it doesn't hurt anybody, right? Michigan's whole beer scene is based on home brewers then got really popular, and then they decided to start a business and create jobs and make an economy. It was great. And so if the sky didn't fall then, it won't fall now.
But in Michigan and other states, there are state laws that allow you to grow your own. So it might be in opposition to federal law, but it's legal under state law. We need to clean this up.
Right.
Look, I'm not a proponent of weed. I'm not, for a variety of reasons. But if you're going to allow this under state law to happen, then why wouldn't state law say, you know what? But Michigan has about the most draconian liquor laws in the country, if you didn't know. So our liquor commission is a little bit antiquated, according to everyone in the industry. So I don't see any major breakthroughs here. But will this ever make it to the Supreme Court? Will this ever get figured out?
So I think it will. And the reason is because we filed a brief in a case with John Ream But there's another case out of the Fifth Circuit. So there's what we call a circuit split for lawyers, and you can distill liquor in the Fifth Circuit, like Mississippi, the last state to repeal prohibition. That state allows you to do so. But if you're in Kentucky or Tennessee, famous for their spirits, you can't distill your own liquor. You can't do it in Michigan either. And you can't have a rule like that where it's legal in one state under federal law and it's illegal in another state under federal law. So the Supreme Court's going to have to take this and resolve it in one way or the other. And so it's going to be a big deal. We wrote on it because we want to tell everybody that tax law isn't how you do this. Tax policy should be all about raising revenue, whatever the government needs. And we can have those debates and fights about how much does the government need to have. But that should be about raising revenue, not regulating people's behavior in their private homes.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I hope it makes it. I do. I think it would be an interesting experiment for me to make swill, because I'm sure I wouldn't be very good at it. But I should have that right to make lousy liquor.
Right. The right to make lousy liquor is great. And some people turn it into a business. This is a good way to grow the economy. It lets people do something in the garage and then they go, I'm good at this. Maybe I will sell it. And then they do all the paperwork and, all of a sudden you have a whole new business with all kinds of new jobs.
Yeah, well, there you go. The problem, I don't think I would do it in the garage. I think there's a combustibility issue that could possibly come to bear on that one, sir. But Tyler, I agree with you. Look, it's America 2026. They've decriminalized or legalized everything under the sun except making liquor in your garage or your pole barn or wherever you want. Anyhow, last word to you, sir.
Well, I think it's an important case. I think this is something that America was founded on these sorts of freedoms. Our founding fathers made their own liquor. They made their own beer. And there's no reason why, like you say, in 2026, 250 years later, we should be regulating it as if the Americans are criminals. They are not. We can handle that kind of freedom.
I agree. I totally agree. Greatly appreciate you being here, Tyler. It's an interesting case. We'll see what happens. I hope the Supreme Court rules. I mean, let's be honest. The founding fathers, they liked liquor a lot more than people do today. That's a fact. In fact, Americans are drinking less today than they have my entire life. At any rate, we will keep an eye on it, sir. Come back with any updates you might have.
I'd be happy to. Thank you for having me.
Greatly appreciate the conversation, sir. There you have it. All right, we'll take a break and be back. Remember, follow us on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, all those places, and subscribe to YouTube for free, where there are 24 episodes of the Forgotten America podcast waiting for you to enjoy right now. Become a subscriber for free and have all these great conversations. You're going to be glad you did. I'll take a break and be right back. Diving right back into it now with the most incredibly wonderful part of the program. That's when Ivy comes in with that big beaming smile of hers. Look at that. There it is.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe. I know you're not feeling 100%, but I appreciate you.
I think I need you to make me some breakfast.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe we should just skip the rest of the show. Let's go get some breakfast.
Yeah, me too, Steve. Me too.
All right, maybe not.
Kidding.
All right, maybe not. Anyhow, that's why we were delayed coming back. You didn't feel well. We kind of got shanghaied for a
sorry
day.
about yesterday,
That's
everybody.
all good.
We were stuck in Myrtle Beach because I got food poisoning. Like, ooh,
Or
not fun.
something. Food poisoning or something, yeah.
It's definitely food poisoning.
It was ugly.
Generally, there's, the outcome of food poisoning comes with some things that are always true. Not that I need to share those little details with the audience, but you
Fill
can
in the
just
blank.
imagine.
Yeah, fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
My goodness.
Anyhow, besides all that joyfulness, what else you got for me today? Anything?
So I found this interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but the president and Marco Rubio are preparing to revoke as many as 200,000 business and tourism visas. I want you to hear this bite, and I want your take on it.
All right.
Go ahead.
Tells Fox News officials have revoked a record-setting 175,000 U.S. visas from foreigners since the beginning of President Trump's second term. Quote, the majority of these visas were revoked due to law enforcement encounters for a range of criminal activity, with assault, driving under the influence, theft, and drug crimes being the leading causes.
We're liberating our communities from the scourge of migrant crime.
A significant share of these 175,000 visas were revoked for sexual assault, child abuse, fraud, embezzlement, and reckless driving.
That includes illegal immigrant drivers. That includes foreigners here on visas that are driving drunk on our streets. We're not going to tolerate that.
Right now, the FBI is working to extradite.
Yeah, 200,000. Look, this is all part of, and this is what people voted for.
I agree.
This is what people voted for. Close the border. Take out the people that ran across the border and never got vetted. Didn't come here legally.
No.
If you violate our laws, if you steal from us, like we've seen in Minnesota and elsewhere, you're out automatically. I think that the president should be out there saying, is he, in the conversation I had with him a couple of weeks ago, we had this conversation. I said, why don't you just say, if you're not legal to vote and you cast a ballot, you're deported.
Automatically deported. Yeah, that's
No
a great
questions
idea.
asked.
Absolutely.
You're gone. If you are not allowed to vote and you vote,
Well, that should be true of so that is a crime, and therefore
Correct.
they should be deported. Just the same as many other crimes that a lot of immigrants, whether they are legal or illegal, if they commit crimes, then they should not be here.
correct.
Because it's a privilege to be in this country and you need to earn it. And
Right.
if you break the law,
If you break the law to come here, if you break the law while you're here, if you break the law and steal money or vote illegally or commit a violent crime or drive a car or hurt somebody, whatever, you get a DUI. You know what the funny thing is?
Yeah,
they let
Canada.
these DUI people out that are illegals and put them back on the street. That is a crime against the rest of us, to me.
well, soft on crime policies never work. They're harmful to
Society. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Absolutely.
If you commit a crime, and maybe there could be misdemeanors or something that, you could say, well, okay, we can allow that, but that you get one mulligan on a misdemeanor. No mulligans on felonies. No mulligans on DUIs. I mean, if you get a DUI ever in your life, you're not allowed in the country of Canada.
That's right.
Period.
Yep.
So why do we allow it?
It's beyond me, Steve. I do appreciate that the president and the Secretary of State is actually thinking about, hey, we need to clean up our country, and we do have rules, and you need to abide by those rules. And if you don't, see you later. So I think that is very smart, and I think a lot of people appreciate that, and it is what people voted for. But I want to go back to what you were asking me about earlier, because I did a little bit of thinking about the Lindsay Clancy trial.
Yeah. Strange.
Strange and horrific.
Yeah.
She murdered her 3 kids. And, I think people, why is it, do you think that people are trying to work overtime to explain why she shouldn't be responsible for these murders.
It's evil. I don't know.
And then you take that in contrast to Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, and how she was just lambasted because of how she's grieving.
Right.
So her husband got murdered, and the country put her on trial
it's
for how she was grieving.
Interesting what you point out there. The same group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Be clear on this. The same group of people that are out there defending Lindsay Clancy are the same people that turned Erica Kirk into a villain.
That's right.
Lindsay Clancy is some sort of, victim or hero or whatever.
It's like we scrutinize the survivor and we sympathize with the killer. Not we. I'm saying what is happening right now in society, where we're seeing this hundreds of women that are protesting there at the courthouse in support of her. Listen, do I feel for her? Yes, absolutely. I think that it is.
Does she get a free pass?
No. Is she culpable? No. Does she have culpability? Absolutely. Does she have some problems she needs to be freed from? 100%.
Yeah.
You don't murder your children without a big problem in your life.
Yeah.
But we judge grief we don't understand while excusing evil we cannot bring ourselves to confront. And I think that's really what we're talking about here when there's this discussion about, this woman who took her 3 children.
From her husband.
It's horrifying.
From her grandparents. From everybody.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It is.
Well, there's something to ponder, everybody. Let that, evil we won't confront.
Yeah.
We have to confront the evil. Ivy, I'm glad you're feeling better.
Well, thank you.
I know you're not 100% there, but you're a lot closer than you were 48 hours ago.
That's true.
Love you.
I love you.
All right. We'll take a break. Final thoughts after this. All right, so there's trade war with Canada. This is, I've got some questions about it because it's an important series of questions. What is Mark Carney's motive here? I spoke at length with people who are doing the negotiating between the United States and Canada. They're people I know. And I was aware of the trade deal, 48 hours ahead of time. That they had reached a deal, it was a good deal. Everybody was happy about it on both sides of the border. It was good. Canada sends about 75% of its exports to the United States. Wood products, oil, gas, motor vehicles, whatever it is. 75% of Canada's exports come to the United States. And then Mark Carney blows the deal up. And it seems to me that Mark Carney is doing the bidding of the globalists who do not like Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump, he's reordering the global financial systems. And they hate it. Donald Trump is not just sitting there saying, oh, we can do this or that. We'll just keep doing things the way we've always done them. Absolutely not. He says America's getting screwed, and he's not wrong in many, many cases. So the question then becomes, is Mark Carney doing this for Canada, or is Mark Carney doing this to try to hurt Donald Trump before the midterm elections in the United States, which I believe is the case? Mark Carney is doing the bidding of London, Berlin, Paris, and the EU in general. But if he does this, if he wants a real trade war with America, he's going to lose. Again, 75% of Canadian exports come to the United States. You slap 50% tariffs on washing machines and motor vehicles and other things, it's a disaster. Oh, and by the way, Carney said, well, we'll just stop sending America oil. Hey, I've got an idea, Mark. Go look at the pipeline routes that come out of Alberta and Western Canada. They all come through Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota before they go back to Quebec and Toronto. Might want to look at a map before you make that bold statement. Just saying. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is Daybreak. And remember, only you can save America.